Howdy, my name is William.
And I'm Mason.
And we are On Topic.
A podcast where we talk about interesting things with interesting people.
Today we will be discussing humor.
Yep.
Yes. This was originally going to be an April Fool's episode,
Mm-hmm.
which would have made the humor thing a tad more on point.
Yep. But admittedly, it does hold as just its own philosophical topic. In fact, I hadn't realized until, prior to doing research for this episode, how many famous philosophers had actually, given the topic some amount of time and thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not actually done any research whatsoever for this one. There were some miscommunications that went on.
Yes.
And so I'm going in completely blind.
Mm.
You'll have to enlighten me on the theories this time.
Admittedly, I did not have much time to do that research. We've both been very busy recently.
Yes.
But we can dive straight into it. Now, usually we start by defining stuff.
Sure.
Do you want to start with that as well?
Sure.
Because to be completely honest, I have no idea where I'm even going to go with this definition thing. Do you have a clear definition?
Humor? So I was watching an unsolicited advice video where it was just going over like goofy philosophical papers, like what makes flatulence funny.
Right.
And it seemed like a lot of people in their papers were sort of defining humor as something along the lines of like eliciting laughter or eliciting a smile or something like that, which feels odd to me because I think like that almost seemed to be the sort of the standard fare. And I don't think that holds at all. I think you could make a very good joke in a room full of people who wouldn't understand it, or would be like insulted by it or whatever. Like I think a good joke could exist independent of observation, I suppose, is the...
Fair enough. I mean, so do you think part of the humor... part of something that makes, something a good joke or something like truly humorous is knowing your audience and curating your joke to make the audience laugh. Do you think that goes into it, or do you think it exists on its own? Because surely a really, really talented and, acclaimed comedian, right, would be able to, they understand, they read the room, they know, roughly... what archetype of person is going to be in the audience, and then they can curate their jokes to be that.
Yeah, I feel like that has less to do with the humor itself, though, and more to do with the application. Like you could have the best medicine for something. You could have the best men's health medicine in the world, and if you give it to a woman, I don't know exactly how this works, but I'm supposing it would probably not do what it's supposed to do. I mean, you could have a really, really good thing and you apply it in the wrong place and it's not, it's impotent. And I would suppose that humor would be more or less the same thing. So you've got your humor and it can be as good or bad as it is. And then you apply the humor judiciously in appropriate settings. And that's something else, I think.
Gotcha. So tying it into your analogy, it's like, so you're willing to stop at the idea, okay, so if I have a cold, right?
Right.
And you give me medicine for meningitis treatment or whatever. I don't know. I'm just coming up with random stuff. Say I have...
You did better than I did.
Well, I think meningitis is also a respiratory thing. No, I don't think it is. Anyway,
no clue.
Two unrelated diseases, you provide one.
Yes.
Say I have one, you provide the medicine for the other. It's likely not going to do anything, right? But
cold
part
medicine
of
for a broken foot.
Part of the efficacy of medicine, do you think part of the efficacy of medicine is the person providing the medicine?
Not usually. Or
do you think it's just, do you think I guess good medical practice and good medicine are two different things?
Right. Right. And so you could make the argument that humor would be like the application of a joke, and the joke is the thing that has this sort of quality that I'm talking about, independent of application.
Yeah. I mean, so context is a big thing that goes into humor, right?
Yeah.
Like having a callback to something that happened earlier, which can be funny. If the thing that happened earlier
right.
never happened, then the callback doesn't mean anything. So context is part of it. Do you think the audience or the recipient of your humor is part of the context?
I think not. I'm still going to lean toward the idea that the joke is that the quality of the humor really has nothing to do with the audience. Like you could totally conceptualize a joke that's too good for the people that are there to receive it, or even just not fitting. I mean, you know, an inside joke could be remarkably funny, and you would have no one to tell it to, because no one would get it, and it'd be sad because it's a good joke, and that happens all the time. You'll be like, man, that was a good joke, or man, there's such a good joke here, but I can't do, or like it'll be like a somewhat inappropriate joke, and you'll like be in a family gathering or something, and you're like, man, that's a great joke, and I cannot use it.
Right. I mean, fair enough. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So how okay, so if you deny the like laughter response is defining what humor is, like where do you think you fall on that instead?
I'm not sure actually.
Because if you want, I can run you through the 3 theories. So in my own brief research of the topic, there are like from multiple sources, there are generally 3 different types, or 3 leading theories or whatever on humor. I will just say what they are, and then I'll let that bounce off you and see what you feel about it.
Cool.
So there's a superiority theory, which is like essentially feeling better than other people is funny. So like any joke will make you feel superior to other people that are hearing your joke. Yeah. That's like a haha, I'm better than you.
Right, and that was one of the arguments for why flatulence was funny, is because it sort of diminishes the social status of the person who has flatulated, the flatulator. Right, they've done this thing that is somewhat just a little gross and a little unseemly and whatever. It's not what's done in social settings, and so then you, as the person who hasn't done that, now has a sort of leg up and can point that out and find amusement in it among the others there.
So yeah, that'd be the first one. I think that is probably, in terms of that specific example of like why flatulence is funny, I think that does. Well,
there's also the incongruence theory or whatever.
Yep. We'll get to
which
that.
Which is, yes, but it's also viable for this.
There's the relief theory, which is venting nervous energy. That's all. So like, when you're about to like make a speech, or you have something that you're like really, really nervous about, it helps to just laugh to get the energy out,
Right.
And that's often just a way to do that. It's honestly, I find that kind of interesting because of the, there's often a confusion that people have between nervousness and excitement.
That tracks.
Yeah. So like you can, and I this is actually, honestly, I'm just going to say this outright right now because I think it's actually genuinely useful. Next time you feel nervous for something, for the people listening, kind of check in with yourself and say, okay, wait. Am I nervous right now, or am I just excited for what's about to happen? Because that can honestly remove, like, even if you realize you weren't, or you were excited for something, it can, even if you did have a little bit of nervousness in it, it kind of dissipates that, because you turn that nervousness that you had thought it was into excitement. So you're now in line with how you're actually feeling, both up here and in here,
Yeah, and the body responds more or less the same to both experiences, to both emotions or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine is sort of why that confusion happens. There's a very similar thing called misattribution of arousal, where the physical responses to spicy feelings and fear are like literally identical. The raise in heart rate, the slight clamminess or sweatiness or whatever, the tensing up, the instinct to breathe faster, the acceleration of breath, all of these things, even the adrenaline spike, like literally everything is physiologically pretty much identical between fear and arousal. And so, I mean, this is why horror movies are such a big go to. Like, you go to the drive-in to see the horror movie with your with the dame with whom you are going steady, because all of this is set in the 80s.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like this is why that's a thing, because they see the scary thing and then their body has the fear response, but they're next to a big attractive man right there. And so then they look at him and they're like, and so then the brain there. So there's top down and bottom up theory of emotion. I understand actually in the psychological literature, they've sort of fused more recently to the extent where they sort of interpret both to happen in some ways and others. This is not my field, but the bottom up idea is that the emotions sort of happen, and then your brain observes the emotions and interprets what's going on. It interprets those sort of internal stimuli and says, okay, so we notice all of these things, the heart rate rising, the clamminess, all of this stuff, whatever, the adrenaline, the tenseness. And so the brain is like, okay, so why is that happening? Why is our body doing that? And then it's like, oh, man, or woman in my case. And then it's like, okay, so we feel all these things because we are aroused. This is a time for arousal. Or you could be looking at something scary, and then your brain would say, so we're feeling all of these things because there's something scary there, and this is fear. You have just sort of physiological responses, and your brain interprets them into emotions. Top down is the opposite. You have this sort of emotional, intuitive response to a thing, and then that informs your body to then respond with the accelerated heart rate and the clamminess and whatever.
Which one do you favor? I'm assuming the first one, but
I haven't thought about this in a while, so I'm not sure, but it seems like the bottom up must be at least somewhat true, because that's what causes the misattribution of arousal, is that you have the physiological response and then your brain is like, what's going on here? And then if you're next to a very attractive person, it'll misinterpret the fear as arousal, or vice versa.
Or even just the nervousness.
This is the same thing.
It's the same thing as well.
Yeah. And I wonder if even those aren't slightly tied together, like literally, I mean, like a one-to-one.
Almost the exact same mechanism.
Yeah, because nervousness and fear and arousal and excitement are like...
almost synonyms of each other.
That's the word I was looking for. The same reason it's like a little bit spicy to sneak into to sneak into places you shouldn't be, like a little things that are a little bit taboo. Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, as you said, so those are the first two, superiority theory, which I can tell you which philosophers are, like I wrote little tiny things.
Go for it.
So Descartes favors the first one, the superiority theory, which is the feeling better than others, which I bet there's arguments you can make for each of them. I bet there's pitfalls in each of these theories, and I'll get to I don't, like personally, I don't think that any single one is absolutely correct. I think it's most likely a combination of
all three of them.
Phenomenon. Like all these together make up what humor, the mechanism of humor. I don't think any one of them is solely correct, but so Descartes and also Hobbes apparently. You did all right.
Yep.
Which I actually don't. I'm not familiar with Hobbes' work. You would probably be more.
I actually am not. I remember the most I learned about Hobbes was when we were reading Ender's Game, and Ender's brother and sister ended up doing their like philosophical propagandist things while he was off fighting the war. And one of them ran under the pseudonym Locke, and one ran under the pseudonym Hobbes, and they sort of argued from their philosophical positions. And one of them was very
Hobbes and Locke before. I've heard that.
Yeah, and Locke is, I think, the social contract theory guy.
It's not John Locke, is it?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with John Locke. Yeah.
And I don't remember what Hobbes' deal was.
With Hobbes?
I think his first name is Thomas, but don't quote me on
Thomas.
that.
Thomas H. Hobbes does not sound right. I think I saw Hobbes abbreviated to H. Maybe it is. That sounds right, though. I don't know. Anyway, this is beyond me.
But no, I don't really remember anything about Hobbes.
Well, John Locke was the one of the founding philosophers for the American ideal system, was it not? Yeah. Okay.
And I think he's the social contract theory guy, which is the idea that like the laws that for them, the idea that the laws that are instantiated within a society ought to be something that's ought to be voluntarily agreeable, such that like we all sort of operate as members of a society in a sort of social contract with each other. We're all agreeing to these things that are mutually agreeable and operate under them. You shouldn't impose laws that are not mutually agreeable. Yes.
Yeah. It's like it's not the it's a theory where like that's a little different than how I understand. I understood like you have almost like this individual agreement with your society that, hey, I will conform to the laws in order to preserve peace, and in like exchange for that, I'll get the benefits of being just part of the society. So I agree to be a reasonable person,
right.
And and I expect some amount of either security, right? Like so, it's like, hey, I want to be part of the Roman Empire because it's massive, and who would attack the Roman Empire,
right?
But in exchange, I'll work within your empire and make it even more successful. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they seem like different angles of the same idea.
And then, as you mentioned before, there's the incongruity theory.
I had it
which you're pretty much... it's the same root word, so you're pretty much there. And that is just as far as I understood it, is literally just something being so unexpected that it just, like, the unexpectedness of an action or a thing leads it to be funny.
The way I understood it was not so much unexpected exactly as just like out of place, or like not as it should be. The idea, like, you have the thing should be a way, and if they're incongruous with that way that they ought to be, then that's funny. There's where the funny is. If like, people's pants should be on, and so if someone's pants suddenly are not on,
right?
Now this is now incongruous with what ought to be, and so that's funny because it's wrong.
Right. But there have to be limits to this as well. So in terms of popularity, I think that one was the most popular.
I think it's the one I find most appealing.
But also there's clear bounds to it. Like it's hard to see off camera right now, but there's you can't even see it from your perspective, but there's a dryer with the door open.
I can picture it. I've seen it before.
Yeah. That's not like I look at that and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, the dryer door should, it feels more like it should be closed,
Right.
The dryer door should be closed. I mean, it should. Yeah. Like, I look at it and it's not funny. I mean, it's just it's a dryer with the door open. Talking about the potential for that being funny is funny, and I don't know where that's coming from. But like, looking at it right now, I can see it. The dryer door is open, and it's not as it should be, right? And it's not fun. It itself is not funny.
The amount of humor in this theory would then scale with the amount of incongruity, though, right? Like, like, that's not exactly as it should be. It'd be better for it to be closed than open.
Gotcha.
Maybe, I don't know. You could make the argument that it ought to air out after the laundry has been done, which it just has. But
gotcha.
So that would be less funny. There would be less humor in that than if the door were, say, off of its hinges, or behaving erratically in some sort of supernatural way, or like pink with pony stickers on it, or whatever.
Right. But what makes something you're saying, like, almost the further that it strays away from normalcy, or what should be, the funnier it is.
So, per the theory, I think. Yes.
That is bizarre. So, like, I'm going to keep focused on this dryer, right?
Okay.
If the dryer was hopping along by itself with the door opening with like music in the background.
That would be kind of funny. I would find that amusing and confusing and terrifying, but it
kind of funny, right?
Yeah.
What makes that more funny? Because that's like way out of the ordinary, right?
Yeah.
But if like all of a sudden the dryer like imploded on itself and turned itself into like a perfect sphere, that'd be like less.
Yeah, that would
funny.
Not be so funny.
Yeah, it would just be that would just be confusing.
A tad concerning.
But then what? Like, but they both seem I don't. Would you say those are equally?
They seem equally erratic. Yeah,
but one is clearly way more funny than the other one.
Yeah,
and I wonder if.
Well, so let's run through our 3 theories.
So, but hold on.
Okay.
So do you think? So I think there might be a human component to this, where the closer something is to being human, but also the further away from what it's supposed to be could also be something. Right? For example, like an animated dryer hopping along to music is going to be acting more human than, so it's more like recognizably silly than something imploding.
Notably, though, I mean, like on the flip side, a person wearing a banana suit, I think, is funnier than a person not wearing a banana suit, and that makes them apparently less human.
Fair enough.
Or like,
so I think there'd be 2 sliders.
Could even take that a step further, and they could be wearing a banana suit, lying in an arched position on a stand full of bananas at a grocery store, and this would be rather amusing.
So I think there's 2 sliders though. So like you could have you have the human element, right, which that's like the most of a boost, because I feel like you have to do less out of the ordinary stuff as a human to be funny.
Right.
Compared to like the dryers has to be doing like a lot of stuff to be funny.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it could just like make a little creak,
but that's like,
if it sounded like, flatulence or what have you, the dryer could make a funny noise and I would laugh at it.
Fair enough. No, I'm not saying like you can't laugh at non-humanistic things, but at the same time, I think that does help with it, right? So, for example, if someone had like a particularly goofy mustache, right?
Right.
That's like, they're very human. It's not that different from a human, but it's still like, because they are like, recognizably human, depending on how bad the mustache is. We'll see, but
encompasses the entire body.
But like they have to stray away from the normal less in order to be funny from there.
I'm not sure that holds, though, because I maintain that the squeaky noise from the dryer that would be funny would be roughly as funny as the silly mustache on the guy. And
but both are about as abnormal.
They take about as much effort and are about as abnormal. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Fair enough. So do you think, are you theory hopping now? Is this do you think
I'm not sure I like any of them.
Okay. Would you like to propose a fourth?
I mean, I don't think that the dryer hopping around is funny because it somehow seems inferior to me more so than it usually does.
Right.
Nor do I think that the dryer hopping around is funny because it eases the tension of the situation.
No, it raises the tension.
Yes.
If my dryer popped off of the washer and started walking towards me, I'd bolt. I'd be out of here.
Teep, huh? Anyway.
Each foot would go through the door.
That's where you don't want to teep.
But also, it's gonna...
Put your foot in its mouth. Sorry.
Do you think you could take that dryer in a fight?
It depends on what it's doing, man. It depends on what way it's animated.
Could it hurt you?
I mean, it could jump on me, and that would be painful.
That would be very painful.
It could slam. I don't know how hard it can clamp its door and stuff. I mean, there's too much unknown here.
That is true.
Also, it'd be kind of hard to damage without hurting myself because metal is harder than skin.
Fair enough. Your bones,
I would need a weapon.
Your bones can sometimes be stronger than most metals. Isn't it like the bones have like a higher tensile strength than steel or something like that?
I've heard this, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think that applies to impact, but
yeah, and it'd be hard to I guess I don't know what it would take to inhabilitate it also. It seemingly shouldn't be animated anyway, so
yeah, fair enough.
So I don't know, would it be enough to unplug it? Or would I have to take off its door? What are we talking here? But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be concerning if it did. So if that actually, but if I'm picturing it, the fear isn't there because I'm just picturing it happening.
So here's the thing though, right? Because it'd be really funny. You would be running and I would be concerned, but also laughing at this sort of like me with the spider.
Well, I was never concerned for you. I knew you'd be fine. It's just, I mean, it's just a spider. And I realized I did my research. There aren't too many dangerous spiders in that area because we had previously run into them, and I was curious and I looked it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, so we were hiking in Korea on the big mountain.
What was it called? Bukhansan.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's Bukhansan National Park or something like that. I don't remember what the mountain was
Sun
called.
means mountain.
Okay, but that's just the mountain. I wonder.
Yes.
Anyway, good hike. Very good hike.
It was great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I had food poisoning at the time. And but yeah, so I ended up with a spider attached to me by a small string, and it was a spidery string, a bit of web. And it was trailing behind me, and he pointed it out, and I saw it, and I'm not sure if I saw it actually, but I bolted down a hill, and it was fluttering behind me, as I understand it, attached by the string.
You were like galloping down this hill, and I was screaming, "Run, run!" And the spider trailing off
very
you,
cartoonish,
like you're wearing a cape. Yeah.
I don't like spiders. It was unpleasant.
And for context, because context does help here, you'd had multiple run-ins with spiders throughout the hike.
Yes, it's true.
Like you'd be walking around and you'd feel the web on your forehead or whatever.
Unpleasant.
I feel like you don't like webs just as much as you don't like the spiders themselves.
Only because they're implied spiders.
I was about to say because the web entails the spider. Yeah.
Not necessarily. It doesn't entail them, but it doesn't imply them.
Fair enough. It is not a guarantee that when you run into a spider web, you'll run into a spider, but it is highly likely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's where the bother comes. But even in that scenario, though, like I was afraid because I don't like spiders, but also it was funny. Like I was half scared and half laughing as I ran down the hill.
I was just dying the whole time.
Yes.
It was fantastic.
There's something to be said for that too, right? Because even just seeing another person laugh can make you laugh.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if there's nothing funny going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's that scene from Love Me where the smart buoy is watching the clip of the babies, and it's like, see, the first baby makes the second baby, the first baby laughs, and it makes the second baby laugh, and that makes the first baby laugh even harder, and it's funny. Which is funny because then even there's a third order of laughter voyeurism. But
well, I feel like that's I don't know. I personally, from my experience, I feel like that works with most emotions.
Yeah.
Like if someone's crying in front of me, well, so it depends. So if someone's crying in front of me, I have no idea who they are. I'll be like kind of just awkward about it. I don't like, but if it's someone close to me, it's gonna probably make me tear up as well. Same way, if someone is visibly angry at you, you'll probably be defensive and maybe a little angry back at them. You know, so I feel like that's just. I don't know if that's.
We just experience emotions vicariously.
Yeah, I think so.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, so I think we can successfully, with our dryer counterexample, write off all three theories.
With the dryer?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's run through them real quick again.
Except the incongruity.
Yeah. So,
I suppose.
Which dryer scenario are we doing? Like, it hops off the wall and runs towards us.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be funnier if it grew legs.
Would it?
Like human legs.
I'm not sure that it would.
That actually be scarier.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe
I think that would be less funny.
I'm thinking of the pot friend from Elden Ring. That's why.
I've not.
And he's like a friend. Anyway. Is
it a pot?
It is.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, it's like a classic
this is
pot you would brew potions in.
Oh, I was thinking like a flower
cauldron.
pot. Yeah.
He's somewhere between a cauldron and a flower pot, but like one of those big planter style ones. You know? Yeah. Anyway.
So yes, we've written off superiority because the dryer doing that would not make it any more inferior to us. That wouldn't be the thing that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And we've written off the easing of tension, the relief theory, because that would not ease any sort of tension remotely.
Right.
Unless I suppose.
But I ask, like, if that happened just now,
Right.
if that actually happened, would that actually be funny? I feel like it'd be like just terrifying at that point. Like, I don't know
like
if it would actually be funny. Like, picturing that happening is funny, but that's because the tension's removed.
I feel like it'd be like the spider where you're like laughing and crying at the same time.
But that's like,
it'd be frightening.
the spider makes sense. That's just a thing we've come to expect. Like, spiders exist in the world. A walking sentient dryer does not, or not sentient, animated dryer. We don't know if it's sentient or not in this scenario. But if it's an animated dryer that just pops off the wall and starts like doing this, and there's like French horns playing in the background, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I think it'd be like shocking. I don't know if it'd be funny in that scenario though. Like if it actually happened.
I feel like you would laugh at the absurdity of the situation. A part of you may be concerned, and like I would almost infer possession or something at that point. I don't know. It seems demony,
Right.
which would be scary and not funny in itself. But the absurdity of the manifestation, I think, just would elicit some extent of humor response.
Maybe a little bit, but like what? Like the idea of that happening is funnier than if it were to actually happen.
Sure. So maybe there's something to be said for humor existing as an inverse corollary of fear.
But that doesn't make sense with the thing we were talking about before, remember?
Well, no, I mean, humor isn't excitement or arousal. Necessarily.
Yeah. It does seem close to it, though.
Yeah.
It does seem like it would be close to that. And I know, like, for example, if you're at like a haunted house or something, right? And this dude, because you know they're actors in the thing, but it's like still scary, and you kind of like, you kind of like, but you also like end up giggling a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I get that, but there's that knowledge, that's that pretense of like,
you're right.
Okay, nothing actually dangerous is happening here. Like I would if the dryer hopped off the wall right now, I would have no guarantee of safety.
Sure.
You know?
Right.
So I don't know.
Certainly we would laugh afterward.
Oh yeah, I don't know, because at that point I'd have so many questions. Like my whole worldview would change if that happened, you know?
Right.
And I suppose you work more with the supernatural than I do.
Yeah, I would assume demon.
See, I'd be left with a multitude of questions. So
yes, fair enough.
I feel like it'd be less expected for me than it might be for you.
Would you try to write it off as a coincidence?
No, I mean, probably not.
Good, I'm glad. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I don't think I could. That would be, I would be delusional at that point. Yeah. Maybe like if someone told me I was schizophrenic, I'd be like, okay, maybe that's like a thing. But then you would have also seen it happen. So
yes.
Yeah.
Shared psychosis.
Yeah, which would be
your probably go-to explanation. You'd be like, there was a gas leak or something.
Well, but I don't know. I don't know, because there's people like who I've seen a story of this person who went with like their friend or whatever, and they took psychedelics in the jungle, and they both woke up with the same, recalling the same exact dream happening and conversing in the dream.
Whoa!
Like in their psychedelic state. There's a word for that, not psychedelic, but anyway, whatever. I don't remember what the fancy word is for that. But yeah, I remember them recalling like
hi.
Yeah. Yeah, but they had like a whole conversation. They like came back to their senses or whatever. My theory on that is that they probably were like half out, half
very plausible
there, you know,
right.
And they just remember it all being weird and stuff, and they assumed it was like an entire vision, but it wasn't a vision. It was like half a vision, and they were still actually had that conversation. Anyway, I don't know, but I don't even know if I could come to that conclusion. I don't know what I would do in that scenario, but
so anyway, per the dryer example, the only plausible theory is the incongruity theory.
Mm.
The only thing that could be funny about it is the absurdity of the situation. And I feel like that kind of tracks, because I don't feel like me being better than someone is why most things are funny, most humor.
Mm. I feel like it's a very childish version of humor, because like I do believe in my, like, you know, that I believe that, like, if in middle school or something, if there's like a archetypical bully, right, they probably do get a lot of humor out of making fun of and belittling people, you know? There's probably legitimate humor. I think it's the same mechanism going behind the scenes. Obviously it might be very hollow humor, you know, it might be causing them other problems, but
there's there is something to that though, and but I don't think it accounts for most humor.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah, no, this is definitely not that. I would have that sense of, I do think I am better than a animated dryer. Yeah. But but I don't think that's where the humor is coming from.
Yes, King.
And also, I feel like the context for the humor has shifted, because in the start it was purely the idea, and then we brought up the thing of like, oh, what if that actually like happened? And those are two different things. Like now, after having this entire conversation about this animated dryer,
you're right.
Like if it were to happen, then yeah, the ridiculousness would be like to the max, because we've been talking about like how ironic would that be if it actually happened.
That's true.
Keep my eye on that thing for the rest of this.
You were already keeping your eye on it.
Yeah. I have no choice. It's right there.
But at the same time, the more we discuss it, I feel like the less humorous it becomes.
Yes, fair enough.
Until it happens, or unless it happens, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it becomes less and less absurd. It becomes more and more expected, and therefore less funny. I am partial to the incongruity theory to an extent. I feel like that doesn't allow for the funny because it's true phenomenon, though. Like you see those memes or whatever. Can I come up with an example of this on the fly?
Are you talking about like relatable memes or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't come up with it on the fly either.
It's striking.
But like that moment when you...
Right. Insert meme.
When you stub your toe and then it's like this dude and he's like shot like it's like a...
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like...
Yeah.
It's some movie clip of this person like about to pass out or something. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that style of...
Right. Which is funny. And...
Yeah.
And the opposite of incongruous, the thing that makes it funny is the very fact that it is exactly the way that things are.
Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know where that would come from. The first thing that popped into my mind is the unexpectedness of your life being as similar to others. Like,
oh, interesting.
Like you wouldn't expect other people to have such like distinctly similar experiences to you. Because I don't know, there's like this individualistic aspect to everyone's person, you know, where they see themselves as like unique. I don't know. You know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah.
And so that's where I think that would be coming from, is like, it's kind of shocking that I guess it is unexpected that, you know, someone's life is as similar as it is to you, or someone's experience with something is as similar as it is to you.
Well, okay, but so then let's take another case. Like, suppose that you trip and fall.
Right.
It would be sort of funny.
Right, yeah.
But then, like, I or one of our friends or whatever could be like, bro just ate it.
Yeah.
And that would instigate further laughter. That would be funny. It would be even funnier. The observation of the thing that's just happened. I suppose you could argue that it's funny because it's uncouth. It's the opposite of the response that you ought to have, but it feels like it's funny because it's pointing out the thing that's just happened. That's funny. Pointing out a truth.
possibly. In the tripping example, it does seem like it does seem like it also could possibly be, interpreted as I am better than you because you just fell. And therefore I'm going to point out that you just fell and I haven't fallen. So therefore I have a leg up on you because you didn't fall, or because I didn't fall and you fell.
It could be, but I don't feel like that's why I would be laughing at that. I don't. I mean, I feel like if that were the theory, it would have to be like a very subconscious thing.
Right. I mean, so like, I don't know, but I feel like it might be a little bit. I think, are you willing to say that there are instances where that is the primary source of the humor? Like in the bully example, right?
Right.
Do you think that's where that's coming from? Or do you think there's something else behind that? Or not even behind that? Or do you think it's like motivated from something completely different?
I feel like it's certainly done out of a sense of superiority, but I'm not sure if that's why it's funny.
Because
I feel like in any case it would be more akin to the incongruity example. Like anything that the bully would be bullying the bully about.
Yeah. Anything the bully would be bullying the bullied.
Bullied works, but I mean, I feel like usually, because you can say like...
The victim? I mean, that works, I guess.
Sure, but like usually when you have a verb, or like you have like a doer, you have like...
A doey.
Right. You have like the mentor and the mentee or whatever. But bully doesn't work because bully already ends in E.
A bully.
Anyway.
Recipient of the bullying. Why did I say bullying? This is what this whole podcast is about, is bullying.
You've got the like anything that the bully would bully the bullied about would have to be incongruous in some way, would have to be not as it should be. In some, like, you're stinky, or you're small, or you're funny looking, or you're
damn.
I don't know, you can't, girls don't like you, or whatever. Like, or you were like a girl, or what.
Yeah.
In any case, it's funny because something is not as it should be, and the bully is merely pointing that out. And it asserts superiority. It's done out of a sense of superiority, but...
So you're saying that's secondary to the... And it's kind of like misconstrued as the bully getting humor from belittling.
Not even secondary. I think it's like a motivation behind the act of humor, but isn't part of the humor itself.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Right. So where do you think so does the humor come from, the pointing out that you were talking about? Well, because that's very similar. It's like if you're saying, okay, the thing that is unexpected is like this person has like tape on their glasses because they broke or something. Right. That's unexpected. Most people don't have tape on their glasses.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the funny thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think someone walking down the hall and passes this kid that's been bullied or whatever and sees the tape on the glasses is going to laugh at the tape on the glasses, but that same person might, if a bully points it out, might have a higher chance of laughing at it. So you think there is something to that pointing out? Because that's what you were saying, right? It's like, oh, you just fell. Like, bro just fell.
Right.
It's literally just stating what happened.
Right.
And for some reason, that enhances the humor of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that case, well, in the bully in this situation, it doesn't seem like it would be funny because it's an inappropriate response to the situation, which seems kind of what it would be in the case of you falling.
Right. I like how it's me falling.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this anonymous glasses child, the bully pointing it out, like, I don't feel like, because that would imply that the laughter was at the bully. If his response, the inappropriateness of his response were the thing that were funny.
Right.
which doesn't feel right. It feels like it's at the glasses child, the anonymous glasses child.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know where that comes from.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think. I'm not sure. I feel like there's like an ounce of that. I honestly feel like just pointing, like that superiority thing might not be directly connected to humor, but just might make you feel better and maybe more prone to laughing because it makes you feel better. Like you're just in a better mood. Like after, because if you feel that inner sense of like superiority over something, which I feel like, as much as people try and avoid it, like, if you and another person are throwing discus, right? Like throwing a discus.
Sure.
And you absolutely launch one, right?
Right.
And the other person throws it into the pole and like leaves a dent in it or something, right?
Right.
Part of you is going to be like, damn, I'm kind of good at discus,
Yeah.
Like I feel good now because there's that internal competition in you that makes you feel better. And so I think you'll be more prone to laughing in that scenario.
Yeah, and that
just because it feels good to have that one up on people around you.
That also scales with the amount, right? Because if the person were to throw the discus like an inch behind your disc, then it wouldn't be that funny. But if they were to throw it like in the first zone and yours was all the way in the farthest, then that would be funnier.
Kind of funny, yeah.
And so it does scale with a proportion, which I like. I don't know.
Yeah. But also, like, imagine this. Imagine you throw it, I don't know, 80 feet or something, right?
Right.
And then this dude walks up and does it, and he launches it. But as he launches it, he makes just the goofiest noise you've ever heard, like the weirdest grunt you could imagine, right? Like or something as he throws it or something.
Sure.
But it like goes. He gets like 110 feet or something, and it goes past you. I feel like the instant you hear the noise, it's like, oh my god, that's funny. But then you see it land, it's like it feels like the funniest might go down a little bit.
Fair enough. So, here's a counterexample though, because it seems to me like if you throw yours, whatever, we'll say 60 feet, and you feel like it's pretty okay. I did pretty good. Yeah. I have no idea whether or not this is actually good. I don't have a sense of the average discus range.
I think I got 80 something, like 86 or something.
It's crazy that you remember that.
I don't remember exactly what it was. I don't. I'm just making stuff up. I actually don't remember. But anyway, yeah.
I think I was pretty good at it.
I think we're both pretty good at it.
Yeah, I think I was slightly behind you because you're larger and have big wings.
I just got like mega lank.
Span of those wings. Anyway.
Well, usually people call lats the wings, right? Like the.
Well, it's your wingspan.
Fair enough. See, that's unexpected. Anyway, yeah. So you launch at 60.
Right, and then
you feel good about it yourself.
Somebody else steps up to the plate, the next guy, and he's roughly the same build as you or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he sends it like, 200 feet.
Right.
Like you would laugh at this would be funny. There would be such a disparity between your performance and this guy's performance that it would be funny, but you're also deeply inferior in this situation.
That fair enough, but I feel like that's because the competition kind of dissolves at that point, If there is some tangible competition, right? Because like at some point when you're competing, you can kind of accept that you've lost,
right? Yeah.
And then the competitiveness that you normally, have elicited within yourself while you're in, a competitive setting just will be completely absent then.
I mean, that thing, that dissolving of the competitiveness though, the thing that dissolves it is like an observation of such absolute inferiority that it becomes like totally pointless to you're like, this person is so far above me that it's not even worth trying.
Right. Yeah.
Or worrying about or whatever.
But is that where that comes from?
I mean, I'm not sure if that's
I don't
where
know.
the humor
I
comes
feel like
from.
that'd be just immediate acceptance, right? It's like, well, and I feel like you internally in your brain, you'd kind of resort back to the other things. You're like, if you do that, it's like that's why people when they lose out on a competition and they're like a little, like when they lose a competition, they were good. Like they kind of resort back to like, oh, well, at least I make 6 figures, or something. Like they resort back to another thing that they're proud of,
Right. I suppose the thing that would be funny there would be that would be the relief one. Right?
Yeah,
because
fair
by
enough,
the
actually.
sheer disparity of comparison, by the sheer disparity of your performances,
disparity of comparison.
the tension of the competition has then sort of been relieved. You no longer have to worry about being competitive with this person because they're like so far out of your league that it's not even
Yeah, fair
relevant.
enough, actually. Like there's that, exactly, because you're kind of nervous because you're,
Right.
in a competitive setting, but the second the competitive setting dissolves,
Right.
then you're, the nervousness, you need to get that out or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I think that is correct. I would not have put that together, but I think you're right.
Yeah, so maybe all three just exist respectively in different situations.
Mm-hmm. But it is also strange because, like, in that scenario, the person that would be more prone to laughing would be the person that was outclassed.
Yes.
Like, if you threw 200 meters, 200, that'd be 600 feet, roughly. But if you threw it 200 feet after someone just launched at 60,
right,
you'd be like almost socially bound to not laughing in that scenario.
Yeah, well,
because,
and I mean that sort of creates a tension for you, right? Because now you've created a very awkward situation where you're significantly better than this person, and I don't know. I mean, you could gloat, I guess, and there could be some level of humor in that because of the inappropriateness.
But I feel like you'd almost be
the
fighting
superiority thing. But
I feel like you'd almost in that scenario be fighting back against laughing in that scenario. Like I feel like if you
as the thrower,
like, as the person who launched at 200, afterwards you'd be like kind of, because there's the pressure now to not laugh or to not show off, that you might let off just like a little nervous thing after or something like that.
Yes, or even scoff at the other person if you're particularly unpleasant to be around.
Yeah, fair enough. But in that case, I don't think you'd be laughing when you're scoffing. I feel like it'd be just purely malicious.
I don't know. I feel like there's an extent to which you really could just laugh at the extent to which you've just crushed this weakling.
Fair enough. I could see that. I don't know.
I don't think I would do it, but
yes, fair enough. Okay, so I think that is more the relief thing. So I think you can pull from each of them, but I'm least amicable. We had a conversation.
Amenable?
Is that
amenable is the
amenable?
Closest one, I think.
Yeah.
But none of them really felt exactly right.
I'm the least cozy with the first one.
I agree.
The putting down. What was it called again? Superiority theory of humor.
I think I like the relief one least, because I feel like while the discus example sort of fits into that, I feel like the thing that's funny isn't that now you don't have to be worried and before you did. That feels like a nice side effect of the humor, but that doesn't seem like why it's funny. I feel like it's more just notice. I almost feel like that also sort of collapses into the incongruity one, because like the thing that's funny is like, holy, this person is so much better than me. It's wild. This shouldn't even be the way that the thing is structured. Like that seems like what's funny is the inappropriate comparison between the two.
It's like you know Eddie Hall?
No.
It's a former strongman.
Okay.
Joined a boxing match or like a exhibition match.
Okay.
No, it was actually MMA. It wasn't boxing. It was in the octagon with two people that are like 5'5" that were twins, like identical twins or something. And that's exactly the humor I got out of watching like clips of that. I'm like, this is just such a non-contest. This is just like,
right.
It's just funny at this point. Like, Anyway, sorry, I kind of interrupted you on
your
point
good.
there, but I did have a weird related question to humor.
Okay.
And I was thinking about it before, and I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't come to anything on my own, so I was going to actually consult you about this. What is the opposite of funny? Or is there an opposite of funny?
Opposite of funny.
Yeah. Or humor. The opposite of humor. Because I feel like the immediate one that comes to mind
Like seriousness.
is, well, I was thinking sadness is the one I feel like most people would go to. But then I was thinking back and like, if you've, had a particularly good cry session, sometimes you'll like laugh it off afterwards,
I do not do this. This sounds like creepy person behavior.
No, not while you're crying.
No,
but like
sure.
afterwards you kind of like,
Start laughing about it.
yeah, maybe about the ridiculousness of the thing that you were crying about or whatever, right? I've seen this happen with other people at least.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Huh.
I don't like that's the immediate one, but I feel like, in the most, I don't even know, like I guess stereotypical opposite would be sadness, like happiness. Well, I guess happiness, sadness.
I feel like humor is like generally, well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the opposite of humor can't be
An emotion.
right, because the humor response itself is not an emotion. We've already discussed how a joke can be good regardless of the way that it's received. You could make a really good joke about someone and they're the only person there and it's sort of at their expense and they'll sort of like and that's it, and there's not really much emotional response, but it was a very good joke. It was very humorous. Right. It just
yeah, fair enough.
And so yeah, I feel like the opposite of humor can't be an emotion. It
Because I'm on board with what you said before about the sadness thing. I think that is correct about the seriousness thing.
Well, and that was kind of what I was thinking earlier was that it would have to be sort of like the absence of emotion, since it's sort of a spike of emotion. But I don't think that holds, because it's not a spike of emotion. Humor is its own thing, independent of that. And so dry, I feel like, is the way that's described, but then you have dry humor.
I don't know. I feel like, like oh man, what's that guy's name? Tom McDonald? No, that's the dude.
That's the rapper.
Yeah. Who am I thinking of? Norm McDonald.
I don't know this.
I think.
Yeah.
I think it's Norm McDonald. Anyway, same last name. I don't know why Tom McDonald's the first McDonald I thought of. Besides my boy Ronald.
Not old McDonald.
Old McDonald, Ronald McDonald. There's a bunch of funny McDonald's.
Old Ronald McDonald.
Good old Ronald McDonald.
Anyway, Ron the Don.
Anyway, he's particularly known for dry, very like monotone delivery humor, but he's like one of the greats.
All British humor.
He's not British. He's American.
Sure, I was saying another
but
thing.
But yes, that is yes. Yeah, generally, yeah.
The opposite of humor.
I think seriousness is probably
very hard to, but seriousness could be funny though if it were out of place.
Possibly, I don't know. So the thing I was thinking of is like in therapy.
Okay.
There's a thing where like, because therapy is very serious, you talk about very serious topics, right? And a technique for a better conversation is to come up for air every once in a while. And usually when you come up for air, you crack a joke or whatever, right?
This is also a thing in flirtation.
Yeah. And it feels like the opposite of being down here. You need to come up for air and go immediately to whatever is the furthest from that. Or maybe it isn't the furthest from it, and that's why it's accessible. I don't know.
Yeah. And the serious topics are generally the weighty topics. I feel like maybe the opposite of humor is like something like baggage.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might kind of hold too, because like if you make a joke about like Jews and the person has no tie to Jews, then they'll probably find it like a little funny, at least. But if you make a joke about Jews and the person is like a Jew, and not only that, but their parents or whatever were like persecuted for being Jews, then they'll probably find that joke like,
where are we going?
They'll probably find that joke a lot less funny because they have baggage with it. They have this weight surrounding that thing that makes it less funny. But then again, though, that sort of violates the humor exists independently of its reception thing, because I feel like you could make a good joke in that situation and it would just fall on bagged ears.
But also the opposite can be the case, where like you have someone that has, I don't know, say their dad died on 9/11 or something, right?
Right.
And they might be even more amicable to 9/11 jokes as a coping mechanism for that than other people might be, you know? Do you know the type of characters I'm thinking
I do.
of, right?
Yes.
And there are people, and you might say that's a problem. They probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you're using humor as a
but
shield in that case, and that is something that people do.
Yeah. So I don't think it's like a generalization. Like, okay, well, if this person has like this traumatic experience or whatever, and I make a joke about it, they're going to be obviously pissed off. I think there are people that wouldn't be.
Right.
But I also think that depends on how you go about it, because I don't know. I'm not sure where.
No, I mean, none of these things that we've hit so far seem to be it. Humor, where does humor exist? It's not in the reception. It seems to me to be... so I'm of the opinion that jokes are found and not made, sort of like ideas more broadly. I don't... Like, I think they sort of already exist as a product of the circumstances. Right. Like, every joke that could be made already exists as a potential by consequence of the circumstances that elicit that joke. And so it's just a matter of someone stumbling onto that joke that already exists as a matter of the circumstances and then pointing it out. You just sort of take the joke and bring it out of the water or whatever.
Right. But like if you took but also I feel like, I mean, they call it a sense of humor for a reason. I feel like it is kind of individualized almost. I feel like some people will find, like if you took like the most American, I don't know, like think about like a Disney adult couple or something, right? And brought them to a really childish comedy show or something, right?
A Disney adult couple?
Have you heard of Disney adults?
No.
They're like adults that still love going to the parks and consuming all things Disney and stuff.
Going to the parks like Disney World, or to the regular park?
Yes, Disneyland, Disney World. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out.
That'd just be a wholesome couple.
I was trying to, because the phrase Disney adult could imply adults who exist in a sort of Disney-like manner.
No.
Going to parks, visited by birds, nice wholesome romance.
Right.
Disney adults.
No. I mean, like the people that still watch all things, like people who watch every single Marvel movie and have like pop figures on their walls.
I see.
Yeah.
Marvel barely counts as Disney. When you think Disney, I feel like it's got to be like Tangled or something, which is a based movie.
But like Wicked, for example. That's actually good, though.
I've not seen it.
I haven't either. I've heard good things, though.
Isn't it a musical?
Yeah, I think
Total
so.
Disney, yeah. High School Musical would be a legit example. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. So you have these people that like are just, they have like, they're closer to slapstick than clever.
What?
That makes, like their humor, their sense of humor is closer
I
to
see. Okay,
slapstick
sure.
than
A tad
it is
more
like,
juvenile.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
And then you have like some people from from Birmingham or whatever, like a middle-aged couple from Birmingham, and you bring them to the same comedy show. One's gonna laugh and one's not, depending on what yeah. Like, and if you tell a really dry British joke, right, that's like super, I don't know, it's almost like the artsiest form of comedy. I don't even know, but the like really innocent juvenile-esque, sense of humor couple is probably not going to have the greatest time there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like it has to be individualized.
Well, I maintain, though, that there is a universal humor that is then just observed or received to certain extents by certain people. Like I make the same argument as beauty. But I have an analogy.
Well, I was going to ask you, what are the bounds of humor then? What makes something like, okay, is it Boolean? Is it humorous or is it not? Because then
I think it's gradient.
Either everything has to be or nothing can be.
Well, I think it's gradient.
Okay. Okay.
So a while ago, I was in the shower. I've also been in the shower more recently. And I was thinking, and the thought that came to me, for whatever reason, was in regard to humor. This was a while ago again. And so
the people out there hopefully know you've taken a shower since then. Well, I guess they wouldn't know. You haven't told them.
I have.
Well, you just have.
Yes.
So. All right, I guess you did need to put that context there.
Yeah, I assume that I look like clean and tidy and well groomed and whatnot, but
I would say so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think most people would say it.
Which is funny because I actually have just came from Muay Thai, so I'm like super gross.
In months. Like,
I've not showered since sweating immense amounts. Like my hair is full of, I don't know, sweat.
It looks lazier, but it's not like bad.
Yeah, I would have fixed it if it were bad. Anyway,
I also have a similar thing. I also have like a messy.
It's kind of a good look.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's decent.
It's the same thing like when you get out of the ocean, and I know you don't like the ocean, but when you get out of the ocean, your hair,
the ocean. No,
it looks good.
It's the salt.
Yeah. And
yeah,
that makes it like
the
salt.
They sell saltwater sprays for your hair.
They don't work though.
Have you tried them?
Actually, the current hairspray that I use is sea salt.
Wait, but it doesn't work.
No, it does. Fair enough. I was thinking of a paste that I tried a long time ago that did not work.
A salt paste?
A sea salt, like a thing that was meant to emulate the effects of the ocean on hair.
But it was a paste?
Yeah.
Like what I'm imagining is you like are on the beach and you scoop up some sand and you go like this and then you push because that would have salt in it. Like
I wouldn't recommend that, although I can't say it wouldn't do good things for your hair. I've not tried it.
Oh man, God, I have bad memories.
Feel gross.
Getting back from the beach and having like the individual grains of sand.
I find that kind of fun because then you like whoosh, and then it.
But they don't all come off because you have the flat grains of sand that stick to your scalp.
Yeah.
You're going like this for like the rest of the evening, and then
In general, post-ocean experiences are not the best. While the ocean itself may be fun, or not.
Would you care to have this back?
Thank you.
Anyway.
See, that's got to be incongruity. Anyway.
It looked almost like it was like a biblical painting. Like you dropped it and your hand went like this. It was very funny.
So this thing that I wrote down when I was in the shower a while ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
He tapped my foot with his foot for reference.
Yeah, he was right in front of me. I was just like, why not? And then you said, thank you.
So,
shower thought, not the beach. The shower.
There is certainly lots of humor in this episode. We have yet to really firmly define it, however. Characterize, identify, what have you. So, shower time. When you
please no. I've taken 2 today.
Showered with what is the question?
What?
It could be gifts.
Fair enough.
Praise. Other things.
We should stop listing things.
When you make a joke, you don't really make a joke. The joke already exists.
Why did you stop on Joe?
Did I?
Well, yeah. It sounded like you paused for like the K part was like after. when you make a joke, you don't really make a Joe. Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Weird. Well, when you make a joke, you don't really make a joke. The joke already exists as a product of the circumstances. You merely find the joke and express it. The best jokes, then, are the ones which are the most difficult to find while retaining their relevance to the circumstances and their best comedic value. And their base comedic value. You gauge jokes on potency. You then gauge jokes on potency, rarity, and relevance. You could perhaps also judge them by their stability. Some of the jokes which are brought about by the circumstances and could then be told are highly unstable and have the chance to explode, sometimes catastrophically. These jokes are often more potent but also have a higher risk of offense. In this way, we could account for shock value, making our list of gauges for a good joke. Potency, rarity, risk, and relevance. Joking, then, is a sort of mining. Each set of circumstances opens up an infinitely spanning mine shaft. Within that mine shaft lie various minerals, some of which are easy and safe to find and collect, and some of which difficult or dangerous. The preciousness of the jokes, the minerals, which you find, then, is a reflection of the difficulty of finding it, the risk in bringing it to the surface, the extent of its potency, how much of an effect it has, either functionally or aesthetically, and its usefulness, how relevant it is to the circumstances and the recipients. Interesting that I included recipients there. It is a fun coincidence in support of this metaphor that both the precious gem and a clever joke are referred to as brilliant. That's funny. It is worth noting that not every good joke should be told, as various cases. There is a typo here. As I wonder what that's supposed to be. Probably. As in various cases. Nope. I'm just going to assume there was supposed to be nothing there. It is worth noting that not every good joke should be told, as various cases can be imagined in which the surfacing of a very precious mineral could incur catastrophic consequences. This is particularly true of unstable jokes. Bringing them into highly populated areas, you run the risk of disaster, and in the interest of safety, even though they may be precious and useful, it is often best to leave them underground. How do you feel about this? I've not read it since I wrote it, roughly.
I read it a while back. I don't know.
I think I like it.
That makes sense. You did right.
I did. It was past me.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not mad about it.
Just glad.
But I don't know if I'm fully on board with it yet. I just don't like the idea that the jokes are just exist as their own thing.
Really?
That doesn't. Yeah.
Interesting. It seems apparent to me. I feel like that's kind of the easiest part to get through. The gauges seem a little trickier to me. I like them, but they seem easier to argue against. But it seems apparent to me that any given joke that you could make already exists as a potential. It just needs actualized.
Sure, but maybe it's just the way it's the analogy used makes it feel finite. When I think I would have to move into the infinite for that.
I did specify infinite mine shaft.
Fair enough. This is like Hilbert's Hotel. But no, it's not at all.
We do not need to go back here. This is we know where this goes.
I realize that's bad. Exactly. That's not at all what that is. But anyway,
sort of in that it's an infinite hall, but
that's kind of it.
Yes.
Though. That's yeah. I don't know. Something's not working with me there.
You know what?
No, I don't.
Unfortunate.
I agree with making a judgment call on whether or not to say a joke. Right. You kind of quickly have to run through in your brain okay, what would actually happen if I said this?
And that exists independently of the actual humor of the joke, I think, right? You could have a really funny joke and you should still not say it because it would run the risk of damaging something about the situation, the social setting, or what have you.
So that's the problem that I have with this. I don't think there is a baseline humor for everything. Like, I don't think the humor underlies the joke. The jokes may be there, and there are infinitely many of them at every single instant in time, right?
Right.
Excuse me. Whoa. Goofy noise. But yeah, I don't think there is this underlying thing that is humor.
It makes sense.
It's not universal, I don't think.
Believe in the objective joke.
Yeah. I can't get behind the objectivity of humor.
Can't get behind the objectivity of anything.
That is also true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So that tracks. That's a sensible disagreement for us. I can lift it if I want. See?
I didn't doubt your ability to lift it. I was just laughing at what you're doing. Like, take a step back here.
It's late.
It's tired. I'm late.
'Tis.
This is
damn. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so
does that map onto any of the theories? It feels like its own thing to me. So what were our gauges? The potency, mine.
Yeah, I'm just gonna look at my book. What? What if I? What happened?
What?
You
I was
pointed
just
at me.
approving. I'm gonna look at my book, and I'm like,
oh, I thought you pointed at me.
yes, to approve.
Oh, I see.
First, I'm signifying that that this has to do with you, and I understand. And then
okay, I gotcha. From that angle, it's a little tough to see that's like this.
Fair
is
enough.
Good, but that's a little tough to tell what that is.
Fair
I think
enough.
that's why.
Bird.
Anyway, Plato thought that humor was a bad thing and should be avoided.
Really?
Yeah.
On what grounds?
That it was an example of a loss of self-control. So if someone made you, not making other people laugh, I suppose, but laughing yourself is bad because you are losing control of your own actions, right? Like, if I stare at you and say, like, see,
I already lost it.
see,
It's very hard not to laugh when you're trying not to laugh. Hence the try not to laugh phenomenon.
I actually fixed that villain pretty well.
Nicely done.
Yeah, so, but like there, you're trying to practice self-control
Do it again.
by not. You see what I mean?
Yes.
You're trying to practice self-control and not laugh,
Right.
but because you end up laughing, you're losing your own control over yourself.
Okay, but what if I could not laugh and I choose to laugh?
That's different. Yeah, that's different. But I think he was making an example, like most times when you're trying,
it's involuntary, and
it is kind of
involuntary things
involuntary.
are bad.
Yeah, basically.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I disagree. I don't think it's bad to be moved by something.
Mm-hmm. So the opposite is that wit often is a virtue in most people's eyes.
Yes.
Which I feel like you're gonna immediately. I was like, you'd probably immediately be like, yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
And I think I would as well. I think it's good to be funny. However, it also has the same problem, in my opinion, as confidence, where like, it's good. It's good. People should be confident, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of it's like a slippery slope, you know, you can,
There's a lot of slip.
there's a lot of slips and a lot of slopes, okay? You got to be careful with that, right? Because confident individuals happen to be better at manipulating the populace of the country or something,
Sure.
right? For example.
I mean, it's a good
And
thing
the
to be
same
able to
thing-
do. You just have to use your powers for good.
Fair enough, yeah. And you as the recipient of the confidence have to realize
Have to stretch.
you as the recipient of that, you know, confidence or humor should know how to deal with it. It looked like you got possessed.
Losing it, dude. We picked a good day for We picked a good day for this, or a good night, or whatever this is.
This is very funny.
Because, well, I mean, I feel like we're both just tired and loopy. As we've both managed to slip into that sort of state of tiredness, which is manic as opposed to the depressive sort of tiredness.
Yes.
Which is good for this.
Yeah.
You were saying about the people in the
Well, I was saying that I think you, as the recipient of the humor or the confidence, needs to be responsible with how you're dealing with it, you know?
Sure.
You know, if someone tells you to jump off a building, you probably should have the wherewithal to
Not do it.
recognize that's a bad thing.
Sure. Someone's just so confident that they say that and impose it upon
confident.
that they say that and impose it upon you. How do Americans talk?
How do Americans talk?
And you just conform due to inability to withstand their shining confidence.
So, like, yeah, I mean, genuinely, someone can be so confident with a thing that that you fail to see how you yourself are being manipulated.
Well, I mean, if a person told me to jump off a building like 100% confidently in a very reassuring manner, such that it seemed that something was going, I don't know, there was a net or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I might infer from their deep level of confidence that there's some reason that it will be all right, just because that's what they're casting, and they're casting it so confidently.
Don't
enough. Try this on me.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone, nor should people go out there and tell people to jump off of buildings. I don't think that's a good thing either.
Unless it's funny.
Well, okay.
This is the unstable joke variety.
Fair enough, yeah. I gotta stop bouncing in my chair because this is making a really funny noise. Anyway, so Plato thought it was a bad thing. Most other people, because most people were spiritual in some respect, thought it was virtuous too.
Mm.
Yeah, to have wit or to have humor.
Yeah, I mean, I feel having wit seems to me not to be what Plato's critiquing. If you've thoroughly expressed the nature of his critique, because I mean, you could have wit and you could make a good humor. Like, wit seems to me to exist a layer beneath self-control. You can have a very, very good. You could have very sharp wits about you, and not. And still have complete voluntarism over your invocation. That's magic. Over the manners in which you invoke the manner. Excuse me. Excuse me. I mean, what was that? Wow. It sounded like a smoke alarm.
It did sound like a chirp.
You are in control
of the mediums through which you invoke your wit
and the circumstances in which you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're at a funeral, you have a responsibility, even though you're witty as hell, to not make a joke.
Yes, the corpse could, for example, fall out of the coffin into the sexy guy pose onto the ground.
Oh my God.
And it would be very hard not to laugh at that.
This is awful.
Your wits probably would be spinning. They would be coming up with all sorts of comments and jokes and entertaining things about it.
Mm-hmm.
That you could then say, and then you
it's
would.
Like he never died. Anyway, like that. You shouldn't say that if that happens.
Yeah, let that be what you take away from our show. And so it was not nearly fluid enough.
Yeah,
and
I can't. Anyway.
And so you have strong wits, and you then control you filter your wits, and that seems like something that you can still totally do. I feel like what he's critiquing is the reception of humor, the reception of other people's wits. And it seems to me that...
But then, like, what's the point of the wit if everybody is a perfect practicer?
Right. Practitioner
of that principle, right?
Yes.
Then what's the point of the wit? Because everyone's impervious to each other's wit.
Well, you let in, I feel like wits may sort of scale, I feel like your wits and your ability to withstand other people's wits are tied to each other, because wits are generally, wits are like a really, really good marker of intelligence and creativity and like all sorts of things, social awareness, like emotional intelligence. Like wits are an indicator, like a super, super massive indicator of your value as a person.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that if your wits were high, then you would have the intelligence and the social awareness and whatever, like sort of to anticipate to an extent what's going to be said by the other person who has good wits, which can help prepare you to not respond to them. Yeah. But also B, just, I don't know, to have that level of intelligence and emotional awareness and social whatever to be able to like sort of what's the word? Regulate yourself. I feel like those two things could totally exist.
Fair enough. I was thinking like maximally, like of course if you're both especially, well, I don't know. So the question that was on my mind during the entire thing, because it was just kind of blunt and funny.
Go listen to my song "On My Mind" by Norris on Spotify and wherever you listen to music.
Yes. I was going to ask, do you think God is funny? Not him as a concept, but him, like him. how good do you
popped into my mind? God's such a goofy goon.
Goofy goober. The hell was that?
But I'm not actually going to say that because I don't know what you're talking about, because it feels I don't know, a tad disrespectful or something. Like Jesus is sassy. And Jesus is God, and sass is funny.
Is sass funny?
Yeah.
I think
sometimes.
It can be. I don't know. Well, sass is a weird concept.
I feel like kind of everything is like funny in certain circumstances and not funny in others. Like sass can totally be funny, and it can totally not be funny. Falling can totally be funny, and it can totally not be funny. It depends on why the sass was done and by whom and to what end. And
right. Like if someone falls in a football game, like that's normal.
Just neutral, yeah.
Yeah, that just happens, and if that's normal. Right. Yeah. So is there a thing that exists, an event, object, scenario, whatever,
it's just always funny in all circumstances?
Or that's never funny?
In any circumstance.
Yeah.
The poles of humor.
Like, is there any conceivable thing that is not funny? Well, that can never be funny.
See, I feel like I could say anything after that, though, and you would laugh.
Yes, I would. There's something that's always funny. Is God funny? Like the concept of God, is that ever funny?
I don't think that the concept itself is like humorous. I think God kind of has a sense of humor that gets invoked in certain circumstances. I'm struggling to think of it. I have been a tad out of touch with my scripture and whatnot as of late. I was not attending church for a little while either. And we fixed that. I came back on Easter like a certain someone I know.
Yeah.
But not like that, because I'm not God.
Heretic.
Not
a heretic.
Because not God.
Well, I was saying, like,
had I made the claim, yes.
Yeah.
Were I speaking as Lil Nas X, then I would be heretic.
Heretical.
Then I would be a heretic.
Gotcha.
But I'm not. But anyway. So I'm a tad out of touch with these things lately, so I can't think of pressing examples of how sassy Jesus is. But he totally is, I promise you.
Okay.
And it's really funny, and I've laughed reading the Bible because of how sassy he is and because of how solid the sass is.
Gotcha.
I wanna go find those passages now.
I can look up, if you would like, I will happily look up sassiest Jesus moments.
Just stop at sassiest Jesus.
I'm doing this. I'm going to look into this. And you can tell me what the deeper meaning is.
Okay.
Please.
But yes, both Jesus and God the Father totally have senses of humor which are invoked.
Examples of Jesus' sense of humor in the Bible.
Okay.
This is, what is MK?
Mark.
Okay, that's the book, I'm guessing.
I don't know.
Mark 7:9.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. You have a fine way of rejecting the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition! !
I don't know what this is regarding.
This is a rare example of Jesus' sarcasm, humor towards the Pharisees.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jesus asked his father, how long has this been happening to him? And he said, from childhood. And it has often cast him into fire and into water to destroy him. But if you can do anything and have compassion on us and help us. And Jesus said to him, if you can. What? I don't know. I can't. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this.
But
yeah, this is not
if
as
you
nearly
can
as sassy as I was expecting.
I know, but there are things. We can compile a list later if you like.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we'll maybe leave a comment on the video on YouTube or something.
Sure.
And yeah.
Sassiest Jesus moments. Top 10 Jesus sass.
With like a 2012 YouTube thumbnail.
How to be sassy Jesus in 2026.
Sassy Jesus is that'd be a really funny character to play. Well, you couldn't play that character.
No, I would totally rebuke this in any form that it manifested, but it is sort of a funny concept. You could have like, it's done up like a reality show, but it's like a person in Jesus garb.
Yeah, I'm imagining like a Key and Peele skit is what I'm imagining.
Fair enough. That's legit.
Anyway. Yeah, anyway.
So, yes, Jesus and God are funny sometimes, but they make funny. They are not funny.
Gotcha. Okay. But then does God encompass everything?
What do you mean?
Like everything that you can conceive of, can that be tied back to God?
Well, sure. I mean, God subsists. God lies at the root of all being. Nothing is that is not sustained through.
And humor is
God. Sure. Yeah. And I mean, even more broadly, just like anything that has any being is in some way tied back to the Father, because the Father is the force that sustains all being.
Gotcha. So you think is being humorous? Right. So there's two different things. Is being humorous something you should strive for in the image of God, or is it sinful? And is laughing at something you should strive for in the image of God, or is that sinful? What are your thoughts?
So I would suppose that like being humorous, I don't think, like, again, I feel like the jokes already mostly. Where's my thank you?
I didn't say I'd reciprocated. That's like, oh God, that's like saying where's my hug or whatever. Oh God.
Where is my hug, dude?
Where's Alan? Where is
anyway.
It? Yeah.
Where's my hug? Anyway, being humorous, right? Because jokes already exist, I think, independent of you. I don't think that being humorous is being a producer of humor.
The chair squeaking was really funny there.
It's right. All that being humorous really means is having a very finely tuned vision, by which you see the points of humor, the vessels of humor, which already exist, and you just bring them to light. You just bring them up from the minds, because you're really good at finding them. You're better at being humorous is just being better at finding existing jokes than other people and bringing them to light.
Right.
And you can think about it too, sort of in like you can bring the delivery into it, right? Because like the joke already exists, but the way that you present the joke could be better or worse. And that'll affect the reception of the joke in the same way that like you could find the same diamond or the same gold with the same, I don't know how gold works, but like the same carat. I feel like that's something that's done by purification, but anyway.
Right, yeah. So you could have the same amount of gold, but it's like a blob nugget shape versus a bar.
You're right, bar. Or you have like the same preciousness of diamond, but it's cut or uncut.
Right. Yeah.
And that'll affect the way that it's received, even though it's the same substance, the same joke, the same quality, just presented differently.
Yeah.
And so I think it has to be a good thing to be humorous, because all that being humorous means is being observant, basically. Humorous is just a level of observantness, a level of finely tuned vision.
Fair enough, and I can get on board with that.
And so by that token, then, it's like all that you're doing is observing God's creation and pointing it out and observing and elucidating it to others. And I think that's got to be a good thing. That's got to be a holy act.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about someone attending a comedy show?
Fine.
Is there anything sinful about attending a comedy show?
I mean, it depends on the comedy show.
Okay, fair enough.
Like if
it's like super vulgar for no reason or whatever.
Yeah, or if the whole comedy show is like, if God were so smart, why didn't he do this? Like, right. I think that would be sinful to like.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I see.
Go to. I mean, like, I might be amenable to the idea that. I might be amenable to the idea that humor response, like sort of like what Plato was saying. Like, I'm not sure it's a virtue, maybe it is. I don't know.
You think it's like,
but I feel like the way that you respond to a joke is sort of like the way that you respond to like if you have a really funny joke put before you. I feel like there's just a level of natural response that is elicited in the same way that if you have a very attractive woman, or you can push that to farther extremes, and it just is going to elicit a natural response that there's nothing you can really do about. And that's why in the Bible you get this like lust is the only sin that you don't like try to face and fight and stand up against and whatever. Bible's like, lust, nope, run straight, do a 180, drop all your stuff and just go the other way. Just don't even. And you get that example with, I think it was Joseph, and there's like another dude's wife who's like trying to seduce him, and she like walks up to him. He like goes through her part of town, and she like walks up to him, and he just like
just run?
Yeets. Yep.
Gotcha. He just bolts out of there.
Yeah. And so I feel like you could make a similar argument for the humor thing. Like, I'm not sure it would, like, I don't think it's sinful for him to have a lustful response toward that. That's what it's for. That's what the system is working properly. It's just in the wrong environment. And so you could make the same sort of argument with the humor, where it's like if you're in a comedy club and someone says something that's really funny but at the expense of God, like that's a bad thing, and you shouldn't laugh at that. It's not good to do. But once you're in that situation, like the laughing at that itself, I'm not sure is what's bad. It's you have a responsibility to not put yourself in that situation, or to run away if you see that you're in that situation.
Gotcha. So like that'd be just one of those. You just stand up and politely leave. If it's like, okay, this is bad, to have like this stimulus, this anti, you know.
You're right. Or
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could take that to whatever extreme you want. You could like throw a fuss and spoil the show and be like, heretic. You could behead him if you wanted. That would probably not be great.
Yeah,
you
I
could
feel like that would
leave.
not be.
There are all sorts of things that you could do, but yes, you would do it. Not being passive in that situation and doing something to escape.
Don't
from
be
the humor
complicit
would be
in that.
complacent.
Complicit would be furthering, I suppose. Yeah, complacent in that. Yeah,
Is complicit a word?
complicit's a word.
I believe you, but
Complicit, I think, is more like you're willing to turn a blind eye to. Like for example, if you, I don't know, if you're like in a society and you're a benefactor of like something, but it's at the expense of other people.
the meaning of complicit is helping to commit a crime or do wrong in some way.
Yeah. So like if you're saying I'm complicit in the continuation of, I don't know,
Drug.
wage slavery or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know, right? Because
Wait,
I'm a
wage slavery?
I'm a what?
Wage slavery?
Yeah, it's a anyway.
I mean, being like I've heard the term wage slave colloquially to refer to people who are bound to their job because they don't have enough money to do anything else. Like they depend on the job in order to do. But I mean, that's
Basically.
not. Is this like a?
Anyway, I was thinking socioeconomically, which is a little bit less direct, so it might be a little different. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole can of worms. But like, yeah, being complicit in something is like, usually the way I've heard it used is like willing to still partake or be a benefactor of something that's bad, but you're willing to just like not look at the bad and just kind of like turn away from it, you know, and keep benefiting from it.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Inside joke.
Yes, inside joke. It's not gonna be funny for
No, you had to
maybe
be
like
there.
2 or 3 people out there.
Yes.
It might be, but yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I was gonna bring up one thing.
Okay. Good.
The-
I didn't have anything chambered. I just kind of said that.
Going off of the comedy show thing, I don't know what it is about it. I have this hostility towards organized humor, like a comedy show. Like there's just a thing in me where I'm like, humor just should be
Organic.
Yeah. It feels like if you have like a comedy special or something, just feels, it can be done well, but it's more like watching art instead of, like, it's more like a performance art than it is
Right. I mean, yeah.
humor, you know? I don't know. It's like cracking a joke in the middle of a movie. You're not going to think about the joke in the middle of the movie. It's more like you kind of, or like, have fun watching this character and not necessarily because it's fun. The humor is part of it, obviously, but
Yeah, I think that holds.
yeah.
I mean, most of the time, stand-up comedians are like really unpleasant people. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I feel like you just sort of get that vibe watching them. I've never cared for stand-up. I totally know people who enjoy it, but I'm with you on this. And there can be funny moments or whatever. Like sometimes the stand-up guy will say a funny,
Right.
but I just find something about the tone of the thing to be unpleasant. Something about that setting, something about the people. I don't know exactly what it is, but
Yeah, it just feels bizarre. I don't know. There's very few people that I like that are in the comedy world. And if they are, they're usually the ones that aren't like cracking the most jokes. They're more just like just being conversational, you know, to the audience. It's less of like a comedy show and more of just like a nice bounce back of ideas, or nice, like it's almost like a presentation. It's closer to a lecture than it is to just humor for me.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like watching a TED Talk.
I feel like the only times I find stand-up funny are when it's just like so incredibly out of pocket that like to say it on a stage is just it like you just like they are the sort of funny whatever jokes that like we would crack sitting around in the car or something.
Yeah.
But But so yeah, I mean, to take that
Mhm.
onto a stage has some extent of shock value. Again, this is the unstable joke thing. I do think the instability of a joke can enhance the level of humor that it bears. It just makes it a little riskier. And so bringing that into a setting that's full of people and televised is like, okay, so now you've got this horribly unstable thing, and that just it ups the risk factor of the delivering of the joke such that it makes it more valuable somehow, because it was harder to obtain, to bring about, whatever, and also less likely. I don't know. Yeah. So what does my joke thing map onto any of our theories? Back to that question. My
Probably.
gauges.
I think it would. I think you could map it onto each of them. I think it would work for most theories. I mean, because at that point you're almost like trying to define the nature of the humor, whereas the theories are more like, okay, how do you get to that nature of humor?
We were interpreting the theories differently. Because I was thinking that the theories were pointing at where the humor in the thing lies, not how you access it. That's why I was saying, like, with the superiority thing, like yeah, sometimes you can be superior to someone and there can be humor that is there, but I don't think the humor actually lies in the superiority, and that's why I write off that theory.
Gotcha. No, I was more thinking, because, like, for example, the discus example, right?
Right.
Where someone, why is it making so much noise? You could have someone who's relieved and someone who feels superior both laughing at the same time.
Yes.
About the same event that happened.
Right.
But they're interpreting it differently. The humor is still there. Well, I guess would the humor be different then between the two?
No, I think it's the same humor and it's just accessed differently. I think
through the superiority theory versus the relief theory.
Well, that's interesting, because I've been conceptualizing here. This is about jokes. All of this is about jokes.
Okay.
And I've been conceptualizing humor largely as jokes. But in the case of the discus example, where you've got the disparity, you've got the
200 versus 60.
Better guy laughing at the worse guy, and you've got the worse guy laughing because of the disparity between him and the better guy.
Yeah.
It's there's not really a joke exactly. There's not like a thing, like you could maybe read it as though there's an implicit joke that each of them would then make about the situation. But I almost feel like that circumstance is just like, you can think about it this maybe. You can think about it like this maybe.
The crazy part is I didn't even notice that you had said something wrong.
So we were talking about the jokes existing already as potentials by consequence of their circumstances, and each set of circumstances gives rise to this sort of infinite mine shaft through which you can through which you can dig to find the jokes that lie in it. And so some sets of circumstances will be much more rich in jokes than others, right? You've got your gold deposit where you can dig, and pretty much anywhere you reach will be gold.
Sure.
And you've got and my knowledge of mining is largely based off of Minecraft. But
no, I think you're correct.
But I think this is how it works. And then you've got these pockets of whatever, the granite or something, where there's you reach around everywhere, and there's just not really anything precious. You're just, this whole shaft is just kind of not a good shaft.
Unfortunate.
And so and so I think maybe what the case is with these situations where both people are laughing in the circumstance is that, like, they're sharing a set of circumstances, right?
Yeah.
The good guy and the bad guy, the worse guy.
Right. Yeah. Yes, the performant and the unperformant.
Potent and the impotent.
Yes, exactly.
The potent man and the impotent man are sharing a set of circumstances.
Right.
And they're positioned differently in the set of circumstances relative to each other. But they're in the same one. And so I think the case with that, where both people are laughing, or like both people would probably be laughing, is, what was that?
they both hit the same vein, but from two different angles.
Oh, I was thinking that they're like both next to each other in that mine shaft, and they just are like one guy's grabbing the gold on one wall and the other guy's grabbing the gold on the other wall, and so they are kind of different jokes, and so they are tapping into, like, I think humor itself is universal and the same among all things, but the jokes themselves, which tap into the humor, the vessels for the humor, are different in nature and expression and whatever.
Right.
And so some circumstances will be very rich in jokes, and in cases where two people are laughing from different ends of the same set of circumstances, I think that's just an indication that that set of circumstances is pregnant with much humor.
Gotcha. I think that's... I'm
sorry, I'm out of it.
Oh, God. There we go. That we go. Why did you do that? It's already. We're good.
Go on.
Yeah. No, I think that does map onto that pretty well. I think I like them hitting the same vein at different angles, though, a little bit better. Because then you could say, oh, well, this person was employing this technique to get to, or using this method to get there, right? Like, they came in from the top, they went straight down and hit it, and the other person came from the side and hit it, you know? There's different ways of getting to the vein.
The problem with that for me is that the way I was conceptualizing it, the vein was, or the mine shaft, and I guess, the vein could just sort of go whoop over the thing, and then so one person finds the gold over here and one person finds the gold over here, but it's the same vein and they found it different ways, and so in that sense,
a block that they've hit on the same
right, and so in that sense it could work. But in terms of actually getting into the shaft from different points, in the way that you're describing, or at least pantomiming, the problem is that the shaft itself is representative of the set of circumstances, which they are both just sort of subject to whatever they do or whatever they want. They just are slaves to this to circumstance.
I see.
Slaves to the shaft. Sorry.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think I actually am on board with that. That makes sense. Do you think everybody travels down the shaft at the same time? Do you think we're all traveling down at the same time, but we're each pulling gold from the ceiling as we go? Where we see.
So I think that anyone who is in any group of people at any given point, in their assemblage at that point, will all be in the same shaft together.
I see.
The same mine shaft.
I gotcha. Then if someone leaves the voice call or whatever, they
are now in a
off.
different set of circumstances, and so a different mine shaft.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. That makes sense. I think I'm fine with that, actually.
Cool.
Yeah. And I can double check. I don't
think it really, I don't feel like it maps on to any of the theories exactly, but I also don't feel like it really negates them or anything. I feel like we're just kind of on an entirely different plane somehow, even though we're talking about the same thing. It's weird. Those would all be different mining techniques or whatever that you would then employ within the shaft.
Yeah. Yeah. Or there are different ways in which you can, for example, someone who has mined a lot of gold in their life but hasn't done much diamond mining, right? Will be going
right, totally, yes.
They will have a harder time going down a mine shaft where, say you have a particular situation that's just asking for some unexpected thing to happen, right?
Right. Your hair is kind of up here.
For example, if it's a really quiet testing environment, right? The unexpected thing is somewhat someone's water bottle could fall on the floor while it's a really cold. And
this would be funny.
Yeah, right? It'd be surprising and unexpected, but it would, it'd happen and people would probably laugh it off, Yep. So I feel like in that environment, that's more, that mine shaft is more
dense with
dense with certain types of jokes, and the people in the mine shaft who are looking for stuff might have better eyes for certain types of jokes.
I think that totally holds.
Others. Yeah.
You can think of like you've got the like rap beef thing where they do the competitive strings of Yo Mama jokes.
Right. Yeah.
And so such a person would be very finely attuned to spot the Yo Mama jokes that are available
or like,
in any given set of circumstances.
Saying that's what she said. Particular people are going to be better at that than others, you know?
Right. And so if you put the that's what she said guy in a room with the Yo Mama guy, then
that'd be just,
they're both going to be finely attuned for jokes, but they will be different. Like the same thing could happen. The bottle could fall.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the jokes. But the that's what she said guy would probably make a that's what she said joke about the thing. And the Yo Mama guy would make a Yo Mama joke about the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that does work. I think people are just curated like the more experience you have with a certain type of joke, you use a certain method to find that joke.
Yeah.
And that might be what the theories are, right?
Right.
Now, whether or not it's limited to those theories, I would argue there's probably an infinite number of theories to arriving at a joke, and maybe even some randomness thrown in there, you know? But yeah, I don't know.
I reject randomness, but I'm open to the possible infinite ways to collect the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get, so can we work this together with receptivity of humor also? Because part of having a sense of humor is knowing a good joke when you hear one.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I guess, like, I don't know, if you are a miner,
with an E, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was about to tie back to another joke, but I'm not going to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. if it's going where I think it's no.
Right. See, this is a very highly unstable joke. It would be very funny, but
right.
It's not. This is not the setting for such a thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, like if you work in this domain with the fine stones and the collection and the presentation and the cutting and whatever, if you were a person who deals with this sort of thing, a person who deals with humor, a witty man, then it would make sense. Then I feel like in turn, you would know what to look for. Like if someone handed you a hunk of diamond, you would know what things to look for. You would know, like, you know, what tools to use, how to hold it up under the microscope to see the alignment of the molecules and see how square they are, how much of a grid it is, and I don't know what makes diamonds good, how clear it is, how shiny it is, whatever.
Brilliance.
Yes.
The brilliance of the diamond.
Brilliance of the diamond. And so in being very finely, even having a finely attuned sense of humor, you both are better at collecting the things, but also are better at appreciating them when they come to you, because you've learned what to look for in them, how to spot the quality.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I have seen some of these there's tiny little, I think like air pockets or something in natural diamonds. So like, and if you have like fake or not fake, but lab diamonds, there's no air bubble or no traces of like small little things inside of it or whatever, because it's just too pure.
Right.
And so if you're looking for a natural diamond, you can actually tell just by the structure of it. So it feeds into exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Totally. What would be the lab diamond equivalent of this?
Comedy show.
Fair enough. That's legit.
Because it's so curated. Like it's supposed to be perfect. But yeah. But then if you find something, it might be imperfect, but it might also be a little more special because it's also a real diamond, you know?
Dude, this works so much better than I realized. The more we stretch it out, the better it is.
Okay, be careful here.
Totally unintentional, I promise.
Okay, so you're talking about the receptivity of it. I think, so if you're used to dealing with gold and you are presented with a diamond, are you more likely to be like, damn, this is a really, really good diamond? Or would we be more likely to appreciate it more if you're used to diamonds and you realize, okay, well, damn, that's a really good diamond.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like if it's a sort of polarizing thing, the knowledge, right? Because like if you know a lot about diamonds, then if you see a really, really fancy, a really, really rare, exclusive, high quality diamond,
like a black diamond,
sure,
yeah,
then I gotta stop doing that. It sounds really gay.
What?
Sure.
Oh,
I don't know where it came from. I do it from time to time.
I don't think it's a bad thing, but yeah.
But right, so what was I saying? Rare diamond. If you have a very rare diamond and you really know about diamonds, then when you see the super, super rare one, you're going to be like, whoa, you're going to be like really amazed by it. And if you have a very mediocre, very regular, like if your lab diamond or whatever, then you see that and you're not going to be impressed at all. Lab trash.
Yeah. There's so many jokes.
I know, me too.
Anyway,
it's like a worse version of like calling someone a bastard, but like for the lab-grown child.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway,
New world slur. we both hit the same vein
because we were in the same set of circumstances.
Yeah,
we were right next to each other in the shaft.
Anyway, there were no lab-grown jokes there at all.
None. And so, right, if you know a lot, then you'll be very unimpressed by the mediocre and very, very impressed by the exceptional.
So, okay,
and the middle is sort of mediocre. But
so
if you don't know about diamonds, then you see a super cool one, super rare one, you're probably going to react to it about how you would react to the median diamond, to the regular diamond. And if you see a really, really regular one, like a lab diamond or whatever, you'll probably still react to it about how you would react to the median diamond. Tell the
difference.
Yeah, you're just like, woo, diamond. And that'll be about the response of the person who knows a lot about diamonds, how they would respond to like the middle diamond.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm on board with that.
Does it work with jokes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, I do.
The only thing I was thinking of is like, okay, what happens if someone doesn't like your joke? Because it seems like there's a mutual appreciation of that. But I guess you could show... But like, is there any instance where you show somebody a diamond and they hate it?
Suppose that your father had been murdered by being smacked with a diamond.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
This is to me sort of what it would take for someone to not appreciate a good joke. Because symbolically you sort of get a similar thing. Yes.
But there are bad jokes. Are bad jokes still humorous or no?
I think they bear less humor.
So what is being found? Or is it not even a part of the... is it not even a part of your analogy when someone finds...
A bad joke?
A bad joke.
It's like coal. Like, it's a little valuable.
Okay.
There's something there. It's not nothing.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's not just stone. But it's not a diamond.
Like granite. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, or in Minecraft terms, it'd be like
iron
or
if someone
whatever.
hands me a lump of coal, it's not going to, like, upset me.
Sure. That's what I'm saying.
But you can have something that you truly believe to be great, and you hand it to somebody, and they hate it. In fact, they might even get angry at you.
Right.
Is that the lump of coal?
So either you're wrong or they're wrong. There are two possible cases here.
Okay.
Either you are wrong about what you have found. You think you've found gold when in fact you are holding pyrite.
Right. You've been bamboozled. You've been bamboozled.
Precisely. By the earth. And so you bring your fool's gold to them and say, look, gold. And the person...
Look, fool gold. Sorry.
Well, it's fool's gold, so you would be the fool in this scenario.
Oh.
Look,
I'm
fool.
Gold.
Here's
I'm
gold.
That's crazy. We said the same joke, but we swapped around.
This is going to be a fun episode. This is weird. This is a weird one. This is not how I was thinking this would go.
Not at all, no.
Anyway, right. So you've got your pyrite, your fool's gold.
Yeah.
It's funny that pyrite sounds so close to pirate. Like you would get the. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that root word is.
So you give your. Well, I think it's different because pirate is with a Y.
With a Y, yeah.
And pirate is with an I.
Mm.
So you've got your pirate, and you give it to the. And you give it to them, and you're like, "Here's gold," and they, knowing even the slightest modicum more about this than you do, recognize it for pyrite and are insulted by your giving it, or they just understand that you're sweet and juvenile and don't know any better.
Right? Yeah.
But they could be insulted because you've given them something pointless, and they think that that you're trying to short them or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
They could read it as intentional, and now you're trying to sell them pyrite at gold prices. The analogy stretches thin in this case, but I think it kind of works. Yeah. So that's case one. Case two is you're right and they're wrong, which would be like the like someone's like blood diamonds would be a right. Yeah. So you've got this great thing. You're like, look, an incredible precious diamond, but it was like, you inherited it through your German family on the blood of the. Yes. What is the massacred? And so like if you hand that to it, like if you present that to a Jew, you're right. It is a great and precious thing. The stone that you have, it is very high quality. There is a good amount of humor in this thing, but you're giving it to a person who's going to be biased against it. So even though it's great, they're not going to recognize the preciousness of the thing. They'll be too biased, too clouded by their own baggage that they have around it.
Gotcha.
So in the cases where you present someone a good joke and they don't receive it well, either it's pyrite or it's a blood diamond.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I can't really fault you for any of that. I think that is...
Dude, I love this. It works so well in every way.
Yeah.
So I think we solved humor.
Yeah.
This is straight up like a problem that people... This is a surprisingly deep philosophical rabbit hole. Like people have actually been investigating, like as you were saying, people have actually been looking into thinking about this issue for a very, very long time and not coming to really any great broadly agreeable or conclusive answer.
It was kind of crazy looking into it. I was reading about it and I'm like, oh, Descartes. Oh, Hobbes. Oh, Plato
Hobbes.
was, and then Epicurus.
Yes.
Who else? I don't remember what his name was, but anyway, Bertrand Russell was also thinking about it, which is really interesting because he was like the math guy, was he not? I think he was. He was like the physicist.
The math guy.
I think I'm thinking of the same person, but I think he was like, he almost beat Einstein to getting to the theory of relativity or something like that. Like, dude was very smart, but he came out from a more philosophical perspective, I'm pretty sure. And even he, as like a really sciencey person, was questioning it too, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I don't know enough about him, but I believe he was a scientist in like the 30s or something. Anyway.
Yeah, so it's totally a thing. And I think we've solved it in my arrogance.
No, I'll keep thinking about it going forward.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I don't... Well, so...
And also, I looked at my book.
Yeah.
My little tiny book here. My little brown book, not red book.
I swear black book is the thing.
Black box is the thing.
Well, that's a different thing.
Yeah, but I'm trying to connect it to it. Black book.
The little black book is what you keep under your bed that you write down the names of all of your conquests on.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have one.
Well, but is that the thing?
But
you're
yes,
thinking
this
of?
is the thing.
Okay, gotcha.
What is the red book?
Oh, it's the Chinese Communist Manifesto. What the? Why did I struggle to do that? It's a CCP manifesto. It's like,
yes, I see.
Yeah.
Chinese Conch Manifesto.
Is it conch or conch?
This is a valid question.
I should figure this out because people in the Bahamas told me it was conch.
I think that's right because it's spelled conch, and that's how we read it when we were reading the Lord of the Flies. And then we were corrected, I think, into conch, and we're like, this is even goofier.
Yeah, I don't know.
The conch droid.
The conquered.
Anyway,
yeah. It was a word with conch in it, so I said it.
Yeah. My brain went, never mind, continue.
Anyway, so there were like the Mount Rushmore of philosophers, popping up on this humor topic. So I was kind of shocked at that, but it kind of makes sense. We should keep trying to poke holes in this going forward, though.
Yeah, well, so here's one. What do you make of dad jokes? This was something that good old Joseph Foley was talking about on his goofy philosophical papers episode 2. One of them was talking about dad jokes, and it's like, on further
I think that
ponderance, it's like, yeah, I mean, it kind of is weird because they're like intentionally, objectively, like unfunny. But why are they unfunny? Because they're sort of appropriate for the circumstances, and they're just really obvious.
I think it's funny to see how funny someone thinks this such unfunny thing is.
Well said. But like if someone says a dad joke, then it's not, the response isn't usually, oh, that's such a funny joke. The response is like, and you sort of laugh at the situation, but what you're laughing at isn't like
not the joke. It's just
joke. It's like the fact that the person would say the joke, or you're laughing at yourself for finding some extent of humor in it.
The thing isn't the joke. Maybe it's the context needed for the joke, but the thing that's funny is just the situational awkwardness of it.
Right.
Yeah. Or if someone tells a dad joke and then the person who said the joke, the dad, like just, starts hysterically laughing at their own joke. The fact that they enjoy their own joke so much can be funny as well. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess kind of the way we could look at it in conjunction with these other theories would be that then, and we were already talking about this with the different means of gathering them, but I think maybe more accurately what it is would be like the different varieties of stone. Or of the different varieties
substrate
substance. I mean, like iron and diamonds are not stone
material,
but they're mineral. The different varieties of mineral.
Okay, isn't ice a mineral though?
Ice is water.
No, but it's like classified as a mineral.
Is it really?
I think so.
Well,
I think it is. Or like, I think it is classified technically as a mineral.
Hippos are classified as fish for purposes of Lent.
I have seen that. Isn't that the Catholics doing stuff?
Yes. Okay. Also beavers.
Yes, yeah. Probably also platypuses.
Dude, nobody knows what those are.
Yeah, they're very weird. They are venomous.
Yeah.
They have bills, but they're mammals, but they lay eggs.
The word for them in Korean is raccoon, dog, duck.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Very strange.
Yes, indeed. God has a sense of humor.
I suppose so. Do you think that naming scheme was divinely inspired?
I was talking about the creature itself.
I gotcha.
Even ducks. There's that meme that goes around that like God's like, waterproof that chicken and give it a kazoo.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I don't, going back to what you were saying with the dad joke thing, I don't think it's necessarily problematic for our model. Yeah. I think you just have to change what the actual thing you're finding is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, right. And so you could sort of find part of the humor in it could be the sort of incongruence. A part of it could be the sort of such superiority.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And so an interesting idea that was posed there is that dads sort of do that to specifically like sort of embarrass their children by proxy so that they're more prepared to deal with embarrassment. Like innately, not consciously, but
I see what you're saying.
Sort of why that's done, which is interesting.
That I
Yep.
could see that.
Sorry.
Oh, I see. I thought it did it on its own. That was,
The dryer.
I was about to make it. I was about to say it's animated.
An animator. Anyway.
Animatee.
Whoa. Character. What?
R.
Har?
R.
Oh,
Like a pirate.
yes. I missed the matey part. I was just thinking like an animatee would be like the character of your animation, which is kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So I don't think it breaks the model at all.
Yeah,
actually.
no, it totally works. The things that are found. Yeah. Well, and so then, so here's a question for you.
Okay.
The should the different varieties of humor, these different means of, like, maybe we were closer earlier with the different kinds of jokes being the different materials, the different minerals. Your mama jokes could be iron, and your whatever, so on and so forth. Very, very witty jokes could be diamonds and whatnot. And then the reason that the joke is funny in that particular circumstance has more to do with your delivery of it and like the particular relation to the person receiving it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like the superiority thing or the incongruity thing or whatever. Like those don't have to do with the humor itself, nor do they have to do with the variety of humor, but rather just sort of the way that the humor is like brought up to the surface. I don't know.
The medium
This is sort of
through
a weird
which you
one.
find the humor.
I like that. Where you're selling it. You have your stone and you could sell it on the internet, or you could sell it out of a suitcase, or you could turn it into something and you could sell it. And those are the different things. It feels a tad too similar to the presentation, though. Like, how do you distinguish between that and the way that you word the joke and whatever, as you would cut the diamond?
For like the inside joke thing, I would almost feel like, if you happen to stumble on the same jokes often, you end up like, you could have a perfectly normal diamond, but you guys have come across it before,
Mm-hmm.
And so you say like, oh my God, this diamond, remember? Like, it's kind of...
Dude, now we're into meta humor because now you have our avatars in the shaft laughing about something that they find funny, which would imply a whole nother level of metaphorical mine shaft that they are in.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
But yeah, inside jokes may be the thing that throws a wrench in these gears.
I will say, it was very late.
This does not surprise me.
I'm saying I think we should probably
Yes,
wrap
I
up,
understand. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't think it causes any problems. I'm actually willing to stick by the theory.
Yeah, it may not. I'm not sure how exactly you work it in, but it doesn't feel like it breaks it to me. We just definitely don't conceptualize it the way that you said.
Yeah.
Because that does
Yes,
turn
fair
into
enough.
meta
That would
things.
cause problems, yeah.
Jokeception. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm perfectly happy with where we landed, personally. I actually think it's
Yeah,
a reasonable way of looking at it.
I'm glad that you liked my shower thought. I'm glad that I liked my shower thought. I didn't really remember it going into this.
Yeah,
but yes,
I think it is remarkably applicable.
I think that we have successfully formulated a valid, viable theory of humor in this episode. Funnily enough.
Yeah.
Well,
also laughing the entire time.
It got to be our goofiest episode.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, this is probably
I
very
love
bizarre
that it worked out this way. That our humor episode would in fact be the episode where we are
most humorous,
consumed by the funnies. What does subsumed mean?
Is that a word?
Yes.
Oh, I have no idea.
Where's my phone? Do you have it?
No.
Oh, here it is.
I can look it up. You looked up the last one. Subsumed. To include, absorb, or incorporate something into a larger, more comprehensive category or whole.
Yes. Similar to consume.
I think it is probably the same root word.
Assume.
If I had to guess.
What about assume?
I have no idea.
Presume.
Yeah, see, they're all the same root word. I don't know what it is, but
Consume, subsume, presume, assume. What else? Resume.
Yeah.
Susume.
Postsume. Is that a thing?
Posthumous is, and that's spelled like that.
Is it? I thought it was an H. Maybe, yeah. No, I think that is.
There might be a T though. Maybe it is TH actually.
That's what I was thinking.
Posthumous.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yes,
thinking.
yes, I think you are correct. Disregard.
Copy. Anyway, I'm perfectly happy with where we've landed. Actually, we should enlist the listeners, if there are listeners listening. Try and throw a wrench in this, you know? Try and...
Yes,
I think the
please.
camera died. The screen's off.
You may be correct. I wonder when. I feel like I looked at it pretty recently.
I looked at it pretty recently, yeah. So sorry, the camera's off right now.
Yes. Imagine the computer's also off.
Oh, God. Anyway, yeah, we'll enlist your help.
Did you hit record?
What?
Did either of us ever hit record?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, you did on there for sure. I don't remember you doing it on the camera, but you did it on the... Yeah.
I didn't remember doing it on the computer. That was a terrifying moment.
That's the most important part right there.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, so we'll enlist the help of the listeners. Please try and poke holes in this argument, and we will try and repair them to the best of our ability. But also, we will, if it's been proven that there is no way to get around something, then,
We will dissent from our theory.
Yes.
We will dissolve our theory.
Mm-hmm.
We will... I guess dissent was the correct thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. Totally. Throw objections, throw counterexamples. Let us forge this idea in the crucible of your... I was going to say criticism, but that feels a little too harsh. But just like insight.
Yeah.
Your consideration.
Mm.
The crucible of your consideration.
Yeah.
Considerers.
You considerers.
Titter.
Okay.
It means like...
Is that
what is it, like laugh? To titter? Tittering? You tittering fool.
I have no idea.
It's very fun to say.
Fair enough. Let me look it up real quick.
You should say it.
It feels too, I don't know.
Titter?
Yeah.
Titter.
It's a quiet, nervous, or partially suppressed laugh, yeah.
Yes, tittering.
Anywho, yes. Yeah, I'm very happy with where we landed, though. So
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
This was a goofy episode.
Try and poke holes into it. Hope it was
Yes,
as enjoyable for you guys as it was for us.
In all things find, well, maybe not. I was going to say in all things find humor, but that's not exactly right. But but yes, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we should have some sort of positive message. Just like tune your sense of humor well, so that you can both deliver jokes well, so that you can find good jokes, deliver them well, show restraint in the moments when you choose to deliver them, and also observe them keenly. Got to work on that one. That does not roll off the tongue.
Yeah, but I think the message still stands.
Yes, do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for listening.